Hi, my name's Steve Miller, and today I'd like to talk about how I pack my photo gear to ensure that it arrives at my next diving destination safely. Okay, so here we are with my underwater DSLR system. I'm shooting a Canon 50D right now, but the same thing would apply for you Nikon users or really any other model of DSLR. The assumption that we're going to make first off is that you want to carry or travel with 3 bags, one of which is going to be your camera case, one will be your dive bag, and then a third smaller bag to carry on. This is how I prefer to travel. The challenge then, of course, is to be able to get all of these pieces and parts safely stored inside the case. The case that I prefer these days is the Storm Case 2720. What I like about it is the fact that it's tall enough to store the strobes up and down, and it has removable dividers, so you can configure these walls and these compartments to fit all of your parts and pieces. Now, I can get everything in this case, but in some instances, you're going to have a problem with weight. You want to keep this under 50 pounds if you're going to not pay an excess baggage charge. In the case of what you're seeing on this table, the only thing that I pull out is this, the tray. This is the tray for the base of the housing. I choose to pack this separately. I put it in my clothing and dive gear bag, wrapped up in gear. It's pretty durable, can't really be hurt, and that will allow me to keep my more sensitive pieces and parts all padded and separated. Okay, so we know the weight of our case, which in this instance is about 15 pounds, and I know that the components that are going to go inside the case will keep me under that 50-pound limit. I'm always going to start with the housing, although there's no particular reason. Inside of the housing can be a good place to store anything that's light, small, and like spare O-rings, rubber bands, tie wraps, silicone. You can keep that inside the housing. Obviously, you wouldn't want anything that was going to be bouncing around. I like the housing. It's what I'm most concerned about, so I like it in the middle. So I've configured this center compartment here to hold the housing so that on all sides of that I can put additional padding. What I try to think about when I'm packing this case is taking a really hard knock on a corner from a height of 3 or 4 feet without anything getting busted inside. So let's start off with the major components and the ones that are hardest to pack. The housing is in place. The strobes are extremely durable. I'll put the switches to the inside where they could be padded. And a little footnote here, guys, make sure that your strobe is in the off position and lock that so that it can't accidentally turn on while you're in transit. And then I'll put these strobes into the corner away from anything breakable so that if they do move and shift around, they're not going to come in contact with any glass. Now, the famous 8-inch dome is without a doubt one of the challenges for packing a DSLR system. They're very large, very expensive, and obviously you wouldn't want to get a scratch permanently on your dome port. With this particular case, which is another reason I've gone to this side, I'm able to put it all the way into the front, although it is going to have to cant a little bit. You'll see when this lid comes down that it's coming into contact with the dome port shade. This is going to allow everything to be tight but still protected. Once you've put your major pieces in, the next one would probably be the strobe arms. Strobe arms are pretty durable. You can't really hurt them, but they're certainly capable of breaking other items. So what I will typically do is have them on a soft, easy adjust, and then fit them into a long section in the back of the housing, of the house. So I'll put my 2 strobe arms in next. And if you don't want things rattling inside of your case, you can use small pieces of padding, even shrink wrap or some of your lens towels to pad the individual components so that they're not rocking next to each other. Now I've got most of the major stuff out of the way. I keep a particular slot right here for the camera body. And then my macro port can fit here easily in the corner. And then at that point I start stacking my lenses. And again, we have good padding all around the sides of this. But if you want, you can go an additional step and get small pieces of shrink wrap wrap your components up, put rubber bands around them, and set them into the case. Now this is kind of the old way of doing it. The way we used to pack our bags was with everything very tightly fitted together. It's still a good way to pack. It takes you a very long time to do it properly, but the issue is these days I pack assuming that a non-underwater photographer is going to take all of my stuff apart and put it all back together. So if you have all of your pieces fitting in a certain way with shrink wrap around them, what you might find when you get to your destination is now you've got glass piled on glass and metal next to glass, etc. So the configuration that you see here with these walls can make it a little cleaner and a little easier for somebody unfamiliar with your stuff to unpack your bag and then pack it again for you. So I'm just going to slide the lenses into some of the openings that I have. The last pieces of plastic parts will fill in the space. My next major component is the cords. Now it's tempting to use these cords as a piece of padding because they'll conform to all different kinds of shapes and they are kind of soft. So you can tuck these into little corners and make them fit into areas that aren't already occupied. But I'd encourage a little bit of caution here. If your cord gets damaged en route, you can't shoot. So a spare strobe cord is the one piece of gear that I recommend everybody carries as a backup in their system. And when you're conforming them to the little spaces left in your bag, make sure that you're not crimping or bending an edge real bad. From there, you're going to have lots of places to stick your chargers, spare film cards, the focusing screens, and at this point you would top this body off with either pieces of foam or blister pack or even small pieces of neoprene that you can tuck in and around. What you should end up with is the ability for this case to take a really good whack without anything hard bumping into anything soft. And also you'll have a system and a case that's easy to work once you get to your destination when you got to pull all of this stuff out and get organized. So here we go with the complete case. You can see this does need to cant a little bit to close properly. And this case is going to come in right about 47 pounds, ready to go.